something a little bit different. I wanted to talk to you about some things. Of course, by the title of this video, I guess you kind of get an idea of what I'm going to talk about. I notice and I see an awful lot of times, I get asked this question when I'm in different Facebook forums or different Twitter pages and definitely YouTube. I see a question that comes up over and over and over and over and over again. And that question is, what is the best rod and reel for a beginner? I see people ask that question all the time. And most of the time, the answer that you're going to receive can be biased. And I don't mean that in a negative term. A lot of people have Facebook pages, or not Facebook pages, I mean like YouTube pages, big YouTube pages. A lot of these big YouTube guys, they got sponsorship deals. Some of them do, not all of them, but some of them do. They have sponsorship deals. So a lot of times when you ask that question, if you're a beginning angler, somebody that hasn't been in bass fishing long, and you're at the point to where you want to step up your game, you want to go from a spinning rod to a casting rod, and that's most of the time what the question is derivative around or faced around is what's a good bait casting rod and reel for a beginner. And most of the time, the answer you're going to get has a lot to do with that person's sponsorship program or who they're working with. Or a lot of times, even if they're not sponsored, you're going to get an answer that's based upon a product that they really like a lot. Like for instance, if you watch my videos, you know I'm a big fan of 13 Fishing Products. I really dig their rods. But that doesn't necessarily mean that that's the best rod combination for a beginner. They're not real cheap. They're anywhere from $100 to $150, depending on what you're buying, and even up. So I look at it like this: is it practical? If you're somebody that bass fishes, okay, and you're kind of new to the sport of bass fishing, for instance, and most people, they start out, they go down to their local Walmart or Academy Sports or something, they buy a spinning reel setup because that's what most people learn on, is a spinning reel. And there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, there's pro anglers out there, that's all they fish with is a spinning reel. But there's advantages to a bait caster, and a lot of people know this, and a lot of people want to get into using a bait casting rod and reel, but they're intimidated by it. You go to the stores, you go on websites, there's hundreds and hundreds of different rods and reels. When I got back into bass fishing, so I kind of stepped back. When I was a child growing up, we bass fished all the time. We just fished in general. And I fished and fished and fished and fished, and man, I was just I was going 100 miles an hour all the time. And I kind of got burned out a little bit on it, and for about 10 or 15 years, I quit fishing. I just didn't fish no more. For about 10 or 15 years, I went on to other hobbies, did other things. And about 4 or 5 years ago or so, I got back into it again. And when I got back into it, the fishing game had changed quite a bit in that 10 to 15 years. There's a lot of high-performance, what I call high-performance rods on the market nowadays. Lots of high-performance types of reels on the market. So I had to kind of, I had to do my homework a little bit, what I wanted to get. And gradually over time, I've bought in different rods and different reels and tried different stuff. Some I've liked, some I haven't. But I'm pretty frugal about the way I buy stuff. But a lot of people, it just, it can be confusing. So like I said, this video is to help you a little bit. My opinion, like I said, I'm not Kevin Van Dam. I'm not the Fluke Master. I'm not Ike Nelly or none of them guys, okay? But I can catch fish with the best of them. I don't care what anybody says. I can get her done, okay? Now, the thing is, what is the best rod and reel for, we're going to say, a beginner? Somebody that's been fishing less than 3 or 4 years, and they want a bait casting rod and reel setup. Well, the thing you got to look at is budget for one. Is it practical to go out and spend $200 on a rod? Probably not. And besides the fact, if you go out and you spend, say, $200 on a rod, you're really not going to understand or be able to feel the difference in that rod versus, say, a $50 rod. You know what I'm saying? Does that make sense to you? So it's better to start out with a cheaper rod, one that might not be as sensitive, but still can get the job done, and it's still a decent piece, because that way when you work your way up the ladder, you'll be able to appreciate that higher dollar rod for what it is, because you've used a rod that's not as lightweight and sophisticated. Which isn't, just because it's got a big dollar, a big price tag on it, doesn't necessarily mean it's a better piece. I can tell you that from experience. So anyway, rods. Let's go over rods. Or do you want to go over reels? What do you want to go over? Reels or rods? Let's go over reels. Reels is easy. In my opinion, there's only one reel on the market that's really worth talking about for a beginner. Okay? And that is the Abu Garcia Black Max. This is the Abu Garcia Black Max 3. It's their newer generation. To me, there's no argument. To me, this is the only reel there is. Okay? For the money, it's a $49 reel. You can find them even cheaper than that. Academy Sports will have them on sale sometimes for $29. Okay, I found them on eBay for $25. When Tackle Warehouse has a sale, like a 20% off sale, you can do the math. These, like I said, they retail for $49. But you don't have to pay that much for them. You can look around and find deals and get them a lot cheaper than that. For the money, they're a really good reel. They're a really good reel. A couple years ago, my first bait casting reel I bought was one of these. It was it wasn't the 3 because that's a newer generation, but it was like a 2 or a 1, I don't remember. But it's a great reel, and I still got it up there, and I still use it. The only problem I've ever had with it, because it is a cheaper reel, is the line guide. Now this was on it's a Gen 2 I have. The line guide popped out one time. I super glued it back in, never had a problem. It casts, believe it or not, my other Black Max reel I got, I can actually outcast a couple reels I got that cost over $100. I mean, it'll go. So it's not a bad piece at all. So let me cut it open for you. So anyway, there it is. It's a good looking reel. I mean, it's a good looking reel. It's a good looking piece. It ain't bad looking at all. Look at that. That's a good looking reel, and it'll fish all day long. Like I said, now it is what it is. It's a $49 reel. It's not a $149 reel. So, there's a possibility that it won't. I don't know. There's possibilities with stuff like that. It is cheaper, but honestly, that feels just as good as some of the high dollar reels I got. It's light. It's not heavy. It's I know from experience of my other one. I mean, it casts good. So that's the only reel you need to look at, in my opinion. Now, another thing I'll point out: 99.9% of people that fish with a spinning reel, like this one right here, okay? You work the reel with your right hand, you crank with your left hand, okay? Now, I know the only people I know that don't do it that way necessarily are left-handed people. They'll fish the rod with their left hand and reel with their right hand. But most people will fish the rod. What the hell? Most of the people I know will fish the rod, especially right-handed people, with their right hand and crank the left hand. It's just your dummy hand, Now, for some odd reason, I'm not sure why, but when people get a baitcaster, they flip-flop it. I got one right here. So for some odd reason, when some people, when they switch to a baitcaster, they switch it like this. Now, I don't understand for the life of me, when you fish with one of these for years and years and years, why do you fish with one of these? You start doing it this way. I don't get it. It doesn't make sense to me. I'm right-handed. I want to work the rod. I want to feel. While I'm dragging my bait across the ground, I want to feel with my right hand. I'm right-handed dominant. I'm right-eye dominant. Everything's right with me. I can use a nub to do this, so I don't know. That's something you have to take into consideration when you get one. So when I fish with a bait caster, I fish with what is a left-handed reel, which, in my opinion, is a right-handed reel. You understand what I'm saying? I don't get the whole this thing. I don't get it. Maybe they fish with a bunch of zip codes or something. I don't know. But so that's something to think about. To me, it's a more comfortable transition to always just crank with this hand and feel with this hand. I don't understand the whole back and forth thing. I don't get it. I've got friends that have, they'll have 4 spinning rods in their boat and 10 bait casting rods, and they'll be doing this back and forth thing. I don't get it. So just think about that when you go to buy you a reel. You may want to get a left-handed reel. These are called left-handed reels. That's all I use. That's my wife's. She's kind of goofy, so she uses like this. But think about that when you're buying one. Like I said, for me, it just makes more sense. So, hello. So that's the reel. In my opinion, that's the only one you need to look at. After you get going, look at different reels. But for the money, $49, $29, $39, you'll find them all over for different prices. But that's the way to go. And you can buy one of these anywhere. Walmart usually sells them. Academy Sports sells them. I think Dick's Sporting Goods sells them. They're all over the internet. So that's another thing to look at, is availability to a certain product. Boom. So then we come to rods. Well, what rods should you look for? I go back to the same thing. Availability, affordability is big. And of course, durability. You want to get a total piece of crap, So, a couple rods that I found out there that I thought were pretty good looking rods for the money. Lew's makes. Lew's makes good reels. And I've never used one of their rods, but they've got one rod is called the Lew's Laser SG Speed Stick. Now that was a pretty appealing looking rod to me. It's $49.99. That's a perfect price point. $50. I mean, for $100, you can have you a nice little rod and reel set up. And you may ask, well, why not get? You may ask, why not get an Abu Garcia rod and reel? Honestly, I think Abu Garcia rods suck. I've had a couple of them. I think they're garbage. I wouldn't even touch an Abu Garcia rod. Their reels I like. Their rods suck, in my opinion. So even if it just is what it is. I don't like them. I think they're junk. Lew's also makes the Lew's American Hero Speed Stick. They're $69.99. See, now you're kind of getting up there in the price range. That's a $70 rod. For me, a good beginner rod is about $50. I mean, let's face it, man. There's a lot of cats out there fishing that don't have a lot of money, and this is why they fish. It's an affordable hobby. So I believe in affordable rods and reels. So those two are pretty decent. Another one is Berkeley Emotion rod, like I got right there. This is a decent rod. It's a pretty nice piece. As you can see there, you can check out. I got an unboxing video that this rod is in. I like this rod a lot, believe it or not. It's a little bit on the heavier side compared to some of my other rods, but it's also a really big rod. This rod in particular, I think a 7-foot rod would be, pretty much right there in that same realm of weight and balance. But this rod goes for $79.99. It's an $80 rod. So, it's all up to you on what you want to spend. As far as affordability goes, it's not bad, but it's, not a $50 rod neither. But it's a decent piece. Okay, there's also a rod out there from the No. 8 tackle company called the Blackout rod. It is also a $79.99 rod. Kind of the same price point as the Emotion rod. But The rod that I would suggest getting for a beginner is, if I don't break the damn thing, is a Shimano Celis. Now, I know some of the elitist bass fishermen out there are like, "Ooh, Shimano Celis, ooh." Don't listen to them. This is a good piece. This ain't a bad piece for the money. You can get these rods from anywhere from $49.99 to $59.99. So it's right there in that price point. These rods, I've seen them in Walmart. I've seen them in Academy Sports. They're on eBay. They're at Tackle Warehouse. I got this one at Tackle Warehouse. I already own one of these. And honestly, it's a pretty good fishing rod. It's a good looking rod. It's got a nice pearl color to it. It doesn't have bad weight or balance. It's made out of, I think it's made out of 24-ton carbon or something like that. But it's not a bad piece. They are what they call technique specific. That's kind of a scam in my opinion because, and I'll tell you why. I've done some homework on these rods. Like this rod in particular that I've got is a 7-foot medium heavy crankbait rod. Now, for a beginning fisherman or somebody starting out with their first bait cast rod, 7-foot medium heavy is probably your perfect combination you're going to find. You can pretty much do everything with it. 7 foot to 7.2, but 7 foot that would be my recommendations to anybody starting out with a bait casting rod is a 7 foot. But the reason why I say it's kind of a scam with this technique specifics on the Celis line is every one of their rods is made out of the same blend of carbon, and they're all the same action. They're all fast action rods. They got medium and medium heavy, but a crankbait rod is a moderate action rod. It's made out of a little bit different blend of material to give it that parabolic bend. But that's okay. You don't need a crankbait rod to crankbait fish. You know, you don't. For years and years and years, I used just a medium heavy 7-foot rod to crankbait fish, and I caught tons of fish on it. You can do anything with that. So this is what I would recommend, and it's a nice rod. It's cool. There's nothing wrong with it. It's got a cool. It's got the EVA grips and all. You know what I mean? It's a nice rod. There's nothing wrong with it at all. And it's got the perfect price point. It's a good looking rod. It's got, if I can show you on the butt, it's got a little crankbait on there. I don't know if you can see it, but it's got a little crankbait. My other rod has a worm on the bottom because it's a worm rod. But you can do anything with this. This rod in particular, you can crankbait fish with it. You can Texas rig fish with it. You can run spinner baits on it. You can Carolina. You can do anything on this rod. It's a good all-around rod. There's nothing wrong with it. It's a good-looking piece. So this would be my recommendations for you right here with Shimano Celis. Now, that's not to say if you're in Academy Sports or somewhere and you see one of them loose rods for $49.99 or $59.99, they're good too. There's nothing wrong with those neither. I just going from my experience because I've never fished one. I've fished this rod and I like it. It's got a nice skeleton blank, so your finger's right on the blank. You get a good feel with this rod. It's got good balance. I mean, this rod's never worn me out. And if I mess around and break it, it's only a $59 rod, $49 rod, you know. So I'm not going to cry nearly as bad than I would if I broke one of my $100 rods, you know. But, oh, so there you go. Your rod and reel right there. That's it. Albert Garcia Black Max and a Shimano Celis rod. Medium heavy, fast action. So it's a good looking piece. It looks good on there, man. Huh? I'm telling you. That's the setup to start off with, in my opinion. And like I said, this is not my favorite brand of rods. Honestly, I've got several Shimano rods, and I think they're all garbage except for the Celis, which is their cheapest one. Makes no sense. But there you go. So then, you're going to say to yourself, all right, we got a rod and we got a reel. What do we go with next? Well, you're going to have to put line on that reel. And my suggestion would be, all right, so your next question is going to be, you know, we got the rod, we got the reel. What line are we going to put on there? Well, my opinion on that is you have two choices. Braid or mono. Now, you'll see a lot of stuff on the internet about fluorocarbon. Fluorocarbon is great, and that's what I fish with probably 75% of the time. But it's expensive, and it's not as abrasive resistance as some other, like braid or mono can be. And it's, like I said, it's expensive. And we're going with the affordability factor. Braid isn't real cheap, but you get a lot of life out of it usually. And I would probably stick in the 20 to 30 pound braid range. Is probably what I would go with. The downfall to braid, though, is you're going to backlash. You're going to bird's nest it. It's going to happen as a beginner. Just calm down. Don't freak out. Don't kick the dog. Don't punch a hole in the wall. It's going to happen. Braid, man, it can be a son of a gun to get out. So that's why I would suggest getting mono. It's easier to get out of backlash with mono. Now this is Seaguar Cinchi, 12 pound. That's what I would recommend. There's other brands of mono though. You don't necessarily have to get this. You can find something a little bit cheaper if that's what you're more comfortable with, and that's fine. You can do anything with mono that you can do with fluorocarbon. Mono floats. Fluorocarbon, it sinks more. Who cares for what you're doing? It don't matter. I mean, in my opinion, it might be more versatile to have mono because mono floats. If you want to try to swim some top water stuff, this is going to work better. But once you put a weight on the end of that sucker, when you're Texas rigging something, you ain't going to know whether you have mono on there or fluorocarbon or braid. It's all going to sink. You know what I'm saying? You may have some different performances with a crankbait. Like if you're trying to deep water crankbait, it might not run as deep with this, but whatever. I mean, you're not Kevin Van Dam. Come on. So anyway, that's what I would suggest right there. Mono. There you go. You got 12 pound mono on your Black Max on your Shimano Celis rod, and you're ready to rock, man. It's a good quality one-piece rod, and and it looks good. Don't let some of these elitists shame you into thinking you have to go out and you have to buy a $150 rod and a $200 reel and, all this stuff. You don't need that, dude. You don't need that. At the end of the day, it's all about having a good time, okay? At the end of the day, this right here is going to be extremely fishable and extremely affordable for you. There you go. So anyway, there we go. It's a good looking rod and reel set up. There you go. No biased opinions. Or maybe it is. I don't know. But anyway, there you go. And my next video, I'll go over what I think the best techniques to start out with that rod and reel combination to get you going. So I hope you like this video. I hope it's helpful to you. Please share it and spread it and enjoy the wealth of it. Go over to my Facebook page and give it a like. Sometimes I'll have information on there about different things that you might like or not like. I don't know. It's up to you. But there you go. Please like, comment, subscribe, and keep your eyes out for upcoming videos. Have a good day.